The embrace by the European Union of globalism has made European countries prey to competition from emerging economies, especially China, with which we cannot compete.
Well, here we are in London town on this lovely, lovely day. We're standing in front of Buckingham Palace, and today the Queen has invited her guests to her garden party. And here we have Euro MP Andrew Brons, who's going to say a few words to us. Andrew, before we start, can I ask you, did you have a pleasant and relaxing trip down here? Did you enjoy your trip down?
Not at all. It was dreadful. It took about an hour longer than we thought it was going to be, but it was helped by the anticipation of where we were going.
You've spent 5 years at the European Parliament. This, I think, is your third invitation to the Queen's Garden Party. And you see this third and final invitation, no doubt, as a thank you for your services in the Parliament. Would you like to say a few words about the Parliament and your service there?
Yes. I mean, in some ways, there will be a certain amount of nostalgia about leaving. I hope that isn't a sign that I went native when I was out there. But on the other hand, I only intended to go there for 5 years. I've seen the 5 years out, and I've done my best. Whether the best was good enough is up to others to judge.
How would you answer the question, did you achieve what you set out to achieve in the first instance?
I think so. We certainly, as far as speeches are concerned, I made, I think in terms of the 73 MEPs, I think I came something like 11th or 12th with regard to the number of speeches. But it's not number alone that matters. The important thing is that I tried to tick an ideological box with each one, so that every one of those speeches would have covered immigration, migration and ethnicity, or it would have included national sovereignty or the macroeconomic problems of the EU. So they weren't just speeches to, if you like, to tally up an extra one or to expel hot air. Another thing that I set out to do was to delve for information. And that did work once or twice. To begin with, it was pretty small stuff, you know, reaffirmation of the fact that the Lisbon Treaty was really the constitutional treaty under a different name. I managed to secure admissions of that, but as I say, that's of perhaps little consequence. But right at the end of my term, well, indeed, for the last 2 years of my term, I was pressing them on the fact that people who got into the EU illegally were effectively allowed to stay. Even those refused permission to stay were given a piece of paper and asked to leave. And I kept asking time and again in my committee. Many cases there were no other committee members there, but the Commission was always there. And what should happen 2 years later, right on my penultimate meeting, March this year, a representative of the Commission presented a report on illegal migration and what happened to those who were given a returns decision. And in the year 2012, they found that a mere 37% of those ordered to leave the EU had in fact left. Now, I'm convinced that that report was the result of my continually lobbying and asking this very question. Asking the question nobody else was prepared to ask, and indeed nobody else really cared about.
Let me ask, your speeches, of course, come from the direction of your lifelong involvement and support and of British nationalism, which you have played a leading part of for many years. Can I ask you a specific question about British nationalism? How do you see the future for the movement?
I think the future is uncertain. I mean, if things were to continue as they are, then the future for British nationalism would indeed be dismal. But things don't continue as they are. We look at the position of UKIP and we see this as an enormous threat. Indeed, it is a threat, and it's done an enormous amount of damage to British nationalism. But on the other hand, it contains within it a series of, or rather a number of germs of opportunity. What they're doing is they've created, if you like, a fake nationalist party, but it contains a number of genuine nationalists. That must give room for some kind of implosion at some stage. Those people who've been lured into it on false pretences will feel aggrieved by Mr. Farage and his close-knit cronies, and they will either demand his removal and replacement, or they will be prepared to go somewhere else where they'll meet fellow nationalists. But of course we have a problem of our own. Even if UKIP didn't exist, the nationalist movement has fragmented and gone in many directions. And before we can hope to be a serious player, we must be under one roof. And I'm not going to say which roof, that's not for me to say. But I do think that British nationalists need to come together and to discuss the future and be prepared to talk openly and compromise.